Hey everybody, it's Dr. Nicole with Taproot Conversations and welcome. And we have Dr.
John D'Ambrosio. Nice to see everybody. And we have a special guest today, Kallie Corbin. Kallie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, y'all. My name is Kallie. I am a 13th quarter student at Life University. And I would say where I'm from, but honestly, I don't even know if I have a hometown anymore. I've traveled so many places and lived so many places, but grew up in Oregon, moved again, lots of states, and moved to Atlanta from Texas. So, yeah.
Okay, good for you. And what made you want to be a chiropractor?
Oh man. So the short story is my own chiropractic journey. But the thing that really took me to chiropractic school is a little bit deeper. So I was a Division I All-American volleyball player in college. I was destined to be a D1 coach. That's what my coach said I would be. That's what my parents said I would be. Unfortunately, in my senior year, I was placed on my first antidepressant and first antipsychotic, and everything in my health just declined drastically at 21. I had a surgery, and then a week and a half later, I had my first seizure. So this is all happening within months of each other. And so when you're on that path, it's not a great trajectory.
Yeah.
So throughout my 20s, I was hospitalized 4 times. I was on 15 or 14 medications by the time I was 29. And at 29 years old, I was hospitalized for the 5th time. It was kind of the last resort, right? I mean, there was no other option. This is what every doctor's saying, hey, you know what, we just got to go really full in. It was a 21-day stay. And while in the hospital, I had one of these. At the time, they not diagnosed me with epilepsy. They just said it was stress. And so I had a stress syncope moment and hit my head multiple times against the tile floor. This is where my why really started. And that is, I went to the nurse's station and told them what had occurred. And they looked at me and said, oh, that happens all the time with people with your diagnoses. And I never was checked out. And for me, in that moment, I'm going, I guess this is my life, right? Just one diagnosis to the next with this next medication. The thing that changed that day was I had another grand mal later that day. And then again, right before bed. And I still was never checked out. This happened for about 18 more days. I had a fall wristband slapped on my wrist and said, you can't get out of this wheelchair until you stop seizing. And so I was there for a really long time. And in that time, I witnessed people leave the hospital and come back. And I'm going, it's a revolving door. It's just a revolving door. I mean, we wake up, we're artificially put to sleep, then we're artificially woken up just to talk about depression and anxiety, to be put back to sleep. And then I can't stand up, like I'm literally strapped to a wheelchair. This is my life. So when I was released, I went and saw a neurologist and found out I actually had epilepsy. It was nothing I could control. It was not some diagnoses I had already had. And this doctor put me on yet another medication, right? Now I'm on a convulsant. So that was my 15th medication by 29. The thing is, you know, when you watch people go through a revolving door, that is the same medical system I was in for 10 years. It's not just that hospital. This is a continued thing that I see over and over and over again. And so I saw a chiropractic testimonial video, and I was having sciatica because I was still having 20 plus seizures, even though I was on all these meds. Went, and she changed and transformed my health. And I cannot thank Dr. Meyer enough out in Dallas, because I was not an easy patient. I would seize in her office. The first time it happened, she adjusted me, held my atlas in place, and I completely just went still. And so this doctor transformed my life, taught me about true healing, taught me about chiropractic. And within 4 months, I looked at her while on a traction unit, you know, doing your warm-ups. I just remember leaning over, and I couldn't really, because it was really awkward. You know, your head is in this extended state. I said, I think I'm supposed to become a chiropractor. And she's like, finally. I was like, okay. The decision to go to Life University came because I went to Parker, and Parker's a great school. I don't have anything negative. I would never speak negative about another school. Parker was great, and it was super close. But when I visited Life, it was just kind of it felt like home for me. And so my parents are like, sure, this is nothing new for Callie to move to a new state, new adventure. And the rest is history. I'm now in my 13th quarter.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's a testimonial to the chiropractor that was able to change you physically and psychologically to bring you in this direction. But also it speaks to so many people, like you said, once you step into that medical realm, it's so hard to pull out of it because one thing turns into another and another. And before you know it, you're knee deep, then you're waist deep, and then you're swallowed up and you just can't get out. So it's amazing that you were able to do that and then take that to the next level to actually change other lives.
Absolutely. And I think the hardest part and what I've noticed in observing other practices is patients have to be strong enough in the education aspect from their chiropractor, because you have to be your own advocate going into these medical doctors and going, no, I don't need these 15 meds anymore, and most of the time the doctors are like, excuse me. And so you have to go in really confident and understand, like, no, my body's healing. I mean, this last Saturday, I celebrated 8 weeks seizure free. It's the longest I've been since starting chiropractic. And it's just, I mean, would never change it. Never change it, this decision.
Congratulations on 8 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, just to go back to John, what you were saying, it's like how many people out there are just going through everything that Callie went through. It's like millions of people are out there suffering. And, if it wasn't for that person that told Callie, I didn't go through nearly what, I had horrible health when I was a kid. That's how I got into chiropractic. Not nearly anything you went through, but like people are stuck in the system. And it's like, if somebody didn't stand up and say, why don't you see my chiropractor? Or why don't you get checked by a chiropractor? Nobody knows.
No, exactly. And Facebook testimonials, you don't think how strong they can be, but that's what got me through the door. I was literally sent home from a seizure and I'm laying in bed on Facebook. And it was just Dr. Meyer had posted a Facebook testimonial of a woman that beat cancer. And it was just like, okay, you're in my city. I can contact you.
Right.
That's all that it took. It didn't have to be this extravagant, massive thing. It was simply a Facebook post, So
yeah,
we need to talk more.
Absolutely. Now, taking that, I don't mean to jump in and veer off course, but you went from being in the medical model and being unhappy with it, but then just seeing a Facebook post, a testimonial that had nothing to do with your condition and saying, wow, I'm open to this. There has to be more. What in you think sparked that so many other people are kind of missing that and are afraid that I've heard the term worship at the altar of the white coat, and it's sad, but true. How did you break that?
Yeah, it's the very thing that I hope I never have a patient have, and that is your rock bottom. I mean, when you're rock bottom, there were two things that occurred when I hit rock bottom, right? I mean, I'm 29 at the time. I shouldn't be hospitalized 5 times in a zombie throughout the day. Like, this should be my thriving 20s, right? But I realized there were two things that happened. When I hit rock bottom, I realized there was nothing but solid rock below me. And I'm a Christian and I'm a believer. And so, like, I realized that all that was there was just God and I, like the rock. And there's nothing better to know than, hey, I'm going to take a risk. Like, it's just God and I. Why not see a chiropractor? And funny enough, I had actually reached out to a chiropractor months and months before. And because of my case, he said, this probably isn't for you. Ugh. And that's the other lesson I learned, in the sense of not all chiropractors are created equal. And I don't mean that negatively, but it's just that, as a student, I go into school now kind of with a different mentality of like, there is no, like, we're going to try and we're going to do whatever it takes to help people get better, because there's no one else that's really going to do it. And I don't mean that negatively about medical model and all that. I just mean we're in it, right? We're in the trenches with them. So,
what I think, Callie, what you're saying is that if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
Exactly.
If we don't do it, who's going to do it? And I hope so many students are watching this right now, because I also want to bring out the point or kind of show that this kind of stuff in chiropractic offices happen all the time. For the students that are listening, we know this, right? But for the students that are listening, guys, this stuff happens all the time. Like you heard Kallie say about Dr. Myers,
Dr. Meyer.
Dr. Meyer.
Yeah.
She heard a testimonial on somebody's body healing from cancer. Kallie has her story. I have my story, and I know John. We both, like, I can't tell you how many times I've had patients where I've adjusted their atlas, and the same scenario, like, would just hold their atlas in place, and had patients have seizures in my office, and have patients get well, and students, this happens. This is like happening in real life in every office around the world. And I just want to encourage you, just like Kallie, to share and absorb this type of stuff. This is so important that we're sharing this. So Kallie, thank you again for coming. This is awesome.
And I think the biggest thing, and what I've noticed just with you two, right, is your community. Your community is what's going to be it. You can't be an island, right? Even when you're a student, you can't be an island at school. You have to find your tribe, and you have to find your community, because Dr. Meyer got scared. She's told me this so many times. That first time I seized, and she called up her mentor right then. And the mentor reminded her, like, listen to your innate. What is it telling you to do? Okay, adjust Atlas. Then you adjust Atlas. She has epilepsy. This is not something new that we have no idea. Like, you just do what you know to do. And that to me is even more important than anything, is that she was able to call someone to redirect her on back to mission.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Nicole and I do that with each other. It's funny that you talk about that, because it's true. Standing alone, you could do it, but it's a lot easier when someone has your back.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No pun intended, right?
Right.
I didn't even get that till now. See? All right. So Kallie, can you tell us a little bit about your experience in school and what it's been like for you?
It's been a little bit of a roller coaster. No cliche necessary, but so when I got to school, I was still in a very active state of frequency with seizures. And so my first seizure happened second week of the first quarter in the front of a classroom. And that was the moment where it's like, oh, I'm the planner and I didn't plan for this. So from then on, and I absolutely love life to death, but we had to come up with a plan. And that plan was in my second quarter, they realized, we need you to have someone with you while on campus. So I created this thing called the Student Companion Program. And this is a huge shout out to all the companions who have ever signed up and given their time to walk the campus with me, be with me at events. Because these people would I put up a schedule on our public Facebook page. And within 24 hours, I had students that signed up for different shifts. So if I had a class from 9 to 11, I had, Joey sign up from 9 to 11 on Monday, and he was there every Monday at 9 to 11 for the whole quarter. And these people were trained in how to help people with epilepsy, how to help my particular case, where safe zones were, everything. So this was my life. I was running this kind of side business of trying to coordinate, come up with ways to communicate. Because if I had a seizure where we would normally meet up, that person had to meet us in a new location. It was chaos, but we found our rhythm. The other was, I can drive. My neurologist has signed me off because I have a huge aura prior. It's like 30 plus minutes. And so I can drive. I also have Nellie back there, which we'll talk about later. And, but he can't physically write like a note saying like, you can drive, because if anything were to happen, that is legal time. However, life said, no, you cannot drive. So I was unable to drive on campus. So for the last 11 quarters, I've been parking at a McDonald's across the street and walking onto campus. And they were not trying to make my life difficult. If anything, they made my life so much better, because it made me work to become a student. Like, it made me want this and grit it out on the rainy days, on the cold days where you're walking across and you're getting to campus and you're soaked. They made me go, okay, this is worth it. It's straight up worth it. And so that's been my experience. Classes and everything to me have been like a breeze, because I'm like, oh, I have to do all this other stuff. but it's been fantastic. I love my life family to death. So
That's great. And speaking of life now, if you could go back in time and change any aspect of your schooling, what would it be, if anything?
I'm one of those that I wouldn't even go back and change my health journey, only because it's made me and who I am now. So all the times that I chose something to do at school has allowed me to become the person I am today. The only thing I might change is that I got really big into the business and the networking and the communication aspect, everything. I would have loved to have gone on a mission trip. I
Mhm.
really wish I would have taken an advantage of a mission trip to go and serve and just hone in on certain skills and become super confident. And just, I really wish I had done that.
You can still
Okay.
do that, right, John? Didn't we talk to who did the mission? Judd?
Yes, Steve Judd,
Mission
Dr.
Day?
Judd.
Judd did mission trips, yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
and someone else did
Is that
too, with
Judson?
Peter,
Was I thinking Judson?
Yeah.
Judd O'Grady.
No gritty. No gritty.
Life does mission trips, and you can actually get school credit for it.
Mhm.
Because of my situation with the seizures, I was kind of put on hold on that.
Mhm.
But I would still love to, as a doctor, take advantage of that to go and maybe sponsor or something.
Yeah, I could totally see you doing that.
Definitely.
I guess it's my turn to ask you the next
It is.
question. What's your favorite class in school, and why is it your favorite?
Oh, good gracious. Okay, so to be frank, I don't know if I ever had like just this one class that just was my favorite. It was always who was teaching it who made it my
Mhm.
favorite.
Mhm.
So there are a bunch of professors at Life that, I mean, if they came up as a lab professor, you always took them. It was just like, nope, sorry. Like, it's not a diss on the other, but she's just amazing, or he's just amazing. Dr. Poyer, Dr. Bradford, Dr. Good, Dr. Guagliardo, Dr. Ingle, like these people just changed my perspective on topics. I told Dr. Good, Shannon Good, I wrote on her, what do we call it, our post evals or something.
Mhm.
I basically said, a bad teacher can take an amazing subject and make it mundane and boring. A good teacher can take a mundane and boring subject and make it your favorite. And she did that with doc and coding for me last quarter. Like, let's be honest, documentation and coding is not typically a favorite class. I don't even think it's a fun thing for chiropractors to do. I mean, if you know someone, let them know that I'll need an associate like in 6 years from now, and they can come work for me. But she made it so amazing. And we just had great conversations throughout that were real world. And I learned a lot about doc and coding. So those are kind of my favorite, is whoever is teaching.
Good
Nice.
answer. Now, when you started school, I'm assuming you had some sort of idea of what kind of practice you wanted, probably from your mentor going in, maybe seeing the way that they practice. Has that changed now that you're going through school and coming near the end of it? Is your vision of what you wanted to practice different?
Sure. I think I'm in that state of mind of I'm on fire of like, I just want to help people, as many people as possible. And call it naive, I don't know, but I would love to have a high volume where it's just energy all the time. And that has stayed pretty consistent throughout. The thing that I'm learning now and I'm being mentored through is what is life outside the practice. And that has changed.
Mm.
So watching and mentoring, or the people that I really look up to, a doc that comes to mind that I genuinely absolutely love, her name's Dr. Sarah Losby, and she's out in Colombia, and she has 3 practices, but she also has 3 kids, and she is living out the chiropractic lifestyle, like vitalism to the max, with her 3 kids and ingraining it in her kids. And I guess in my mind, I just never envisioned what my life would be like. I was just so consumed with what my practice would be like. And then someone one day was like, you're going to burn out. Like, you have fire and you have passion and everything, but if your life is just going to be waking up and going to practice, and then staying there all day and then going to bed and then waking up and doing it every day, you're not doing justice to your patients. So really the vision of like life has changed big time.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
I need to speak on that. That's so cool because I love, Kallie, I love that you want to be a high volume practitioner because I'm not hearing that a lot from students these days. I mean, John, same, when we went to school, it was like high volume was the thing.
Yeah.
It was like, if you're right, Sigafus was like, if you're not going high volume, don't even bother practicing, right? Sigafus used to say that, right? So like that was the thing. I always wanted to be high volume, and I don't think it's naive at all. I think you go for it, and what you're gonna find, Kallie, I think women go through this a little bit more than men, is that who you are in practice is also who you are in life. Yeah. And when those two things are congruent, it makes for a very happy life.
Yeah.
And stress, anxiety, fear, and frustration come in when who you are in practice is not who you are in life. That's where when you're incongruent, that's where fear and frustration comes in. So, it's so easy. All you have to do is wake up every day and be who God created you to be.
Amen. Amen to that. It is such a huge topic. And it's funny. I mean, just sitting in clinic and listening to students talk about their future practices or what their goals are post-grad, high volume is almost, in a weird way, it's like shunned.
Yeah.
Because
I'm noticing that.
They think that you can't have genuine relationships with patients on a table if you're seeing 800 a week, which of the practices I've been to, there's one in Indianapolis, Dr. Matt Horn and Dr. Michael, like they're seeing 1,200 a week. Like that's something that I think students can't even wrap their minds around is really 1,200. And the people have genuine interactions with the docs on the table within 30, 45, maybe a minute, situation. And people stand up and go to the vibe plates crying because they had such an amazing, just little conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the power of a minute though, right? You can do anything in a minute. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes to make it something that's worth it. But a lot of students, I agree, it's weird because the conversations are different. It's all about who you're around, I guess.
Exactly. And it's about being present. If you're present with that patient, that minute is powerful. If you're thinking about the next patient, you could spend half an hour with them and you're not really developing any sort of connection. I
find it harder in the clinic situation that we're in when we're spending 15 and 20 minutes with a patient because of just the processes that have to occur in students, like an outpatient just can take a while. And that's hard. And I'm a talker. I can imagine people who are not. I'm like, do you just stare at them? So hard. So
yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Kallie, I'll share a story. I shared it earlier in our podcast. John's probably sick and tired of hearing this story, but it was really cool because I was telling our podcast, we did a podcast this morning too. And I had a patient just yesterday came in and she's laying down on the table and she looks up and she's like, Dr. Nicole, she's like, I got to tell you, she goes, the other day when you adjusted me, she goes, I felt God move through your hands and into my body. And that's it. I mean, I didn't say anything to her. Like we don't talk, we do like a little bit of maybe TikTok, but there's like zero conversation going on. So, I mean, and we spend maybe 60 seconds, 90 seconds with a patient in our office. And I mean, I don't know, does it get any better than God moving through your body? I don't think it does.
No.
Like, I know, I don't even know if you can tell, like, I'm trying to hold back tears because that is literally a song that always followed me in every situation of my health throughout my 20s is God always put someone in my life that was there to speak for me when I couldn't. And it's Francesca Battistelli's Hands of God. I don't know if y'all have ever heard the song. It's not a well-known song, but it just became so real when I chose to become a chiropractor, is that song became such a reality that it's no longer kind of this hypothetical. It's literally like we're placing our hands on people. So how important is it for us to be into a state of mind when we're adjusting? So it just, I'm trying like, hold it together. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Okay. Also you had said something, and I think it's important for students to hear something you said. We kind of passed over it. You said, I guess it depends who you're around.
Mhm.
So what did you mean by that? That's important for students to know.
Absolutely. I think the biggest misconception is when you go to orientation, the people that you click with will have to be the people you just continue to be around forever and ever. That's not the case. Those people will continue to be friends, but your tribe and your community is vital. I chose two, or technically like three areas, and they've always kind of been around. I was part of Life Force at Life, and for those who don't know that kind of group, Life Force's whole mission is to spread the mission of chiropractic and give them the opportunity to go become a chiropractor if that's something that they choose, right? So Life Force, the philosophy, the doctors I got to meet, everything, just that community was huge. Then I joined Student Ambassadors, which is you are working directly for and representing Dr. Rob Scott, who's our president. And you do a lot of communications, and we do tours. I mean, there's a lot of aspects. Ambassadors is hard kind of just to pin on one thing that we do. But that in itself was about vitalism. It was not just chiropractic. So I had chiropractic Life Force, and then I joined Ambassadors and learned about vitalism. But the community that is going to be like, their kids are going to play with my kids type of thing, that was always Max Living for me. Formerly known as Maximized Living. People know it as, either it's now Max Living. And these people, I mean, I'm doing life with them every single day. I have, since living here, I've had 2 roommates. And my first roommate, we met through Facebook, never talked, nothing. And it just so happens we were both Max Living. And she grew up with a sister who had epilepsy. And that was just God being like, oh, you need someone? Here you go.
Yeah.
And then our third roommate was a Max Living student as well. She came from an ML office, and my dad was like, she needs a place, live with us. And so she came. We got a new roommate because she went to Peak. He's Max Living. I'm literally doing this every day. We're living out the 5 essentials of, I saw your shirt a second ago, mindset matters. Like that's one of our essentials, and it's huge in our house. Nutrition, minimizing toxins, everything. Our house is literally the hub for Max Living students at Life. And so these are my people. I mean, we do everything together. It's kind of weird, actually. We probably come across as a cult to the people in our neighborhood because we just did a Wim Hof experience in our driveway as a group. I don't know if y'all know what that is. It's
No.
ice bath. You learn a breathing technique, then you get into this big ice bath. So if you can imagine my neighborhood at 8 a.m. in the morning, we have a group of students literally doing weird movements with their body, doing this breathing technique, and then timing each other 2 minutes in this ice bath and like breathing through it. We look like a cult. It did not look normal.
Did you post it? You
We
posted it on Facebook, right?
We
I saw your post.
And so it's just, those are my people, and it's so vitally important. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be nowhere without them.
Yeah, I think that's huge for students. I think that's huge for everybody, but especially students and chiropractors. You got to be around like-minded people, and you have to be with people that share your core values.
Exactly.
That's key.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, besides Max Living and then the Life community, what sort of conferences or seminars have you been to that have helped you grow as a person and as a chiropractor?
Not going to be very exciting. I'm going to give you kind of the same answer. I went to a lot of Max Living seminars. Shocking, I know. These seminars, though, happened, 4 times a year. I also went to something called Inner Winners, which is not Max Living. That is the Hants. I don't know if you know the Hants, but they.
Jane Kathy?
Yes, Dr.
Okay.
J. Yep, and also the Ribleys. So Chuck Ribley, who's one of the co-founders of Life, they do this, I think, twice a year. But it's a time where you can kind of go and overcome some stuff that's going on. And then recently I started to go into Max Living camps, which is very different this is where I like to say it's a combination. Well, this is how they sell it to students. Ready? This is their spiel. It is a spa day, lots of exfoliating, a lot of working on self, and you get fairly tan if you go to the one in the summer. The reality is you do a lot of burpees, and it's basically working out all the time. And the reason why it's exfoliating is because it's normally in a sand pit in the middle of nowhere, Orlando. And then you sit in a room and you overcome your self-limiting beliefs. And it's to make you a better, not just a better chiropractor, but a better mom, daughter, sister. So these have been the ones I've gone to. One thing I wish I maybe would have done is maybe go to some more adjusting, because I went to some adjusting. But the hard thing on adjusting seminars for me was I needed more. And I was like, I just got the iceberg, like the tip of the iceberg on that technique, and so that was always my downfall with those. But no, I tried to get as involved as possible.
Kallie, what technique? Sorry, John, didn't mean to
No,
cut
go
you off.
ahead.
I just got curious. What technique are you driven to? Like, are you attracted to?
Yeah, so a lot of structural techniques. So full spine, diversified. I don't know how everybody calls it differently at different schools. But it's matched with Pedibond.
Okay.
Tables. Yeah. So it's a lot of home care, teaching your patients how to, use their head weight and traction units and wobbles and weighting systems in general, so that we can correct those curves, whether it's hypo, hyper, to get them back to how God created them to be as much as possible, right?
Yeah. Now, why did you, I'm not following this at all. Why did you pick that technique? Was that the technique that helped you?
It is the technique that helped me. So when I saw the difference, and some people need evidence to sometimes maybe a symptom's not going away. For me, seizures got less, but they didn't go away. So does that mean chiropractic's not working? No, right? Because we don't treat epilepsy, we don't treat seizures, right? We don't treat any of these things. But seeing the curve in my neck go from a 5.9 degree curve to a 21.9 degree curve within just 2.5 months, that was something that was like, this is different. This is intentional. This is not just something that she's like, whew, glad that adjustment worked, right? Like there was intentionality. And the big thing is making sure your patients do their home care, right? And their exercises, but putting the stress on it, right? Not just, are you doing it?
Right.
Right. I do CBP in my office.
Oh, that's awesome.
So very similar.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I wish I knew more about that. I've only
come to New Jersey. Come see me in New Jersey.
Oh, hands down. I would love to. Instantly.
Yeah, John, you'll take a trip down here. We'll get pork leg and cheese too. That may not fit in our clean eating. We have this thing with also Brian Dooley is always he was one of our guests too. He's in Sherman and he's a Jersey boy, so he's always joking about pork roll and cheese. So every time he says something on Facebook about pork roll and cheese, I like tag John in it. I'm like, yeah, pork roll and cheese.
That's such a Northeast thing. I'm since I've lived in a lot of states, I'm like, oh, when someone says wicked, I'm like, oh, so you're from the Northeast.
That's real Northeast.
That's Boston.
Growing up in the Northwest, we said you guys, but we have nothing that cool. I realize we're just not very cool up there. We have nothing. We say bark chips. That's, I think, the only thing I've realized that we say that no one else says.
What's a bark chip?
I can't even remember what y'all call it. It's like, what are those little wood? Some people call them wood chips. But
wood chip?
Yeah, but they also call it something else. It starts with an M.
Oh, mulch.
Mulch. Never had ever heard of that.
Really?
No, they're bark chips. They're literally chips of bark, and we play on their playground. I don't know what mulch is.
I never heard bark chips before. Have you,
No,
John?
Me either. No, I'm gonna try
that. You're welcome from Oregon.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's awesome. Oh, so Nellie's still sleeping. We wanted to meet her.
Oh, she can wake up. Nellie. She was like, I don't want to.
Aw.
Here. She's like, I don't want to.
Aw.
You're
That's
like,
okay.
Oh, I
No.
can't take it.
Oh,
So
no.
tell us about Nellie.
So Nellie and I were placed at about a year into school. We were placed together when she was about 5, 6 months old. And I decided to get a dog actually right after Interwinters, is that one thing I went with Dr. Pant. And it was just the right fit. I knew that I would never do a service dog if it wasn't the dog that I envisioned, you know. And this is legitimately the dog that I wrote out and said that I wanted to be a tan, non-shedding dog that just had like the cutest face. And then all of a sudden God's like, okay, here you go. The funny thing is she's a Great Pyrenees poodle, and it's a rarer breed. Everybody always thinks she's a golden doodle or a labradoodle. And so her next vest that she has, I got custom made patches that say Piradoodle, because everybody comes up and it's like, that's the first question they ask. And then the second is, what is she for? And I always let them know epilepsy, and that the best type of service dog is a bored service dog, because chiropractic changed my life. So she's quite bored these days. But the neat thing is, some professors noticed when I first got her, she was acting a little funny around me during one of my labs. And so she started taking pictures. And it just so happens that was the first time she alerted me to me having a seizure. Even though
Wow.
I kind of felt like I was going that direction, she told me way before I even could tell. And so she's
Wow.
been huge. My chiropractor is maybe a mile away from my house. And so now when she alerts me, I can contact my chiropractor, go in, get adjusted. And here I am, 8 weeks seizure free. So she's been a huge help in that.
How does she alert you?
Ooh, it's painful. So there's 2 different types, because I have 2 different types of seizures that can occur. Typically, they both do occur at the same time, but when it's just a tonic seizure, it gets very clingy around me. And just, she's always likes to be in my lap because she uses me to get off the floor. But there's more of that eye contact, a lot more engaged, doing a lot of sniffing and a lot of that sort of thing. The one that's painful is when I potentially will have a grand mal. She will bite my wrist, but not hard. But the thing is, it's normally if I exert myself too much. So I might be on a run, or I'll be doing something where I don't want her to be biting my wrist. So it just kind of hurts when she grabs on and then you're like ripping her off, you know. And it's just her trying to get me down onto my knees so that she can rest her head on my shoulder. And that is just her way of saying, calm down. Something's out of whack. The only downside is sometimes if I am working out, it gives off the same kind of pheromones or, scent that it can be as a grand mal, that sympathetic state, the cortisol, everything. So I have to now I have to choose, is this one, or is she just wanting to get me to stop working out? I don't know. Right, girly? She is out cold.
So that's fascinating. I don't want to take this away from what we've been talking about, but how do they train her to know this? I mean, that's an innate connection right there.
Absolutely. I mean, if I was a dog and an introvert, it would be Nellie. But they use scents. So I had to walk around for a while with little just, makeup pad type things. And if I was ever in an aura, which is that pre-seizure, I would go into different sweat glands and literally put it, and then we put them in these little boxes with holes in it, and we would have her sniff it and then her perform a certain task. Sniff it. I didn't get to choose how she alert me, though. That is something that is just, she makes that decision. I told my trainer, I was like, it's kind of painful. When you're having a lot of seizures throughout the weeks early on, you're like, this is getting, nutty. She's like, we can't really train that. That is just her innate saying, I need my mama down and I need her now. So I need her to grab my attention. And some of my mentors since then have been like, oh, this is your dog. You don't listen to your body like 90% of the time. You push and push and push. So she is the perfect dog to get your attention, to get you to stop
Yeah.
doing what you're doing. So
And does she get adjusted as well?
she does. And I just
Awesome.
wish she loved it. She runs away. But you're a Cairo dog. You have to love it. But she still gets it. I don't care that you don't like it. So
It's good
but I
parenting.
what?
That's good parenting.
Yeah, and I don't do it because she doesn't like it. I don't give the adjustment. I have an animal chiropractor do it.
Mhm.
And that makes sense.
Right.
Nice. Are we stuck?
All right.
All right. John, you want to take it away with the last
Yeah,
question? I
we're
think we have
winding
one
down with the
last question.
Yeah, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to students, what would it be?
Stay humble as a student. We don't know what really life is like outside of school. We're in a school bubble. Like I'm 33 years old. I'm on the older side of the students, and I've had jobs and held jobs, but I've never had to run my own chiropractic business. I've never had to train a CA. I've never had to educate patients, right? These are these things that I've never had to do, let alone the business side, right? The books and all the other stuff. So I think the big thing is stay humble. And so when someone comes and says, hey, or a doctor or someone comes and says, hey, maybe you should learn this, don't go, oh, I know it. No, maybe they're telling you that for a reason. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's kind of speaking to the choir all the time, right? Like I go to these seminars, I'm around doctors. I would go to New Jersey, right? Just because it's like, I just want to keep learning from the best. It's just, you got to absorb, be a sponge. That's my biggest piece of advice.
And that's great
Awesome.
advice.
I love it. We're getting
All
a little
right.
stuck. There we are.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for this. This has been an awesome opportunity to speak with y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was great having you and having you share your story. And I've known you for a long time on Facebook, but we've never actually got to speak. So it was great to be able to do that.
Right. It's been so fun. Facebook is interesting, isn't it? It's like you follow people and you're like, oh, I totally know them. And then you're like, I've never met them in my life.
And I knew nothing about bark chips.
See, the things you learn, the more you know. Rainbow. So
nice. Kallie, thank you so much. This was awesome. I really appreciate you hopping on with us and just giving us your perspective. So cool.
I appreciate the time and the honor of doing this. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All
We're
right.
going to share this and you're going to help a lot of other students and new grads. So
I sure
the gift
hope.
that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. And please, if y'all need anything from me at any time, please feel free to reach out. I don't even know if I shared my phone number with y'all, but please, like anything.
Kallie, we're gonna put we'll get your information right after this, and guys, we're gonna put Kallie's information on like the last, when we're done with this, you'll see Kallie's information, right, John? You put it on like the last page
I'll
of the
put
podcast.
it on a separate page.
Cool.
Yep, so if you want us to give your email so other students can reach out to you or whoever you want to do it.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys, so we're tapping out on Taproot. Till next
Look
week.
at you.